Hi everyone and welcome. Today I am interviewing the amazing Shalini Nandan Singh, and Shalini is a lawyer and a coach for small businesses. She's always loved the law and she yearns to work differently from traditional legal practices, thank God. In coaching and mentoring women in business, Shalini helps her tribe by using life skills gained from her other life as an entrepreneur in two countries, cohabiting in two distinct cultures, and lawyering in two jurisdictions. Shalini is also a mother, partner, journalist, community worker, spiritual seeker, and self-confessed lover of all things that are based in joy, ease, and grace. And I'm so glad to be talking to you today, Shalini, so welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this session. It's been a while, but we are all both so busy, so
yeah,
very nice to be here.
Thank you. And really what I wanted to talk to you today about was obviously legal things, because there are a lot of women in business now going into business and perhaps not taking care of the legal side of their business as they should be. So I wanted to just dive right in and talk about that because, when you're first starting your business, there are so many things to spend money on. Obviously the first things that come to mind, like website, branding, coach, blah, 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 courses, all this kind of thing. And that's where so much of the focus is. But do you think that women in business are really placing enough time and importance on their legal matters?
Look, let's take the word legal out for a minute. It's a self-advocacy issue, actually. Mm-hmm. So you are absolutely right. So much time is spent on the marketing side of things. It's such a hype, and I went through it myself with Legally Shalini. I was a complete lean startup and everything was all about marketing. Mm-hmm. And I realized very quickly that two things fail people. One is their attention to their legal obligations, to their clients and to their suppliers and to their own business. And the second was what you do, the financials. Two pillars get completely left behind in the hype of marketing. Okay. So to your question, do women leave it out? Yes. Is it to their detriment? Yes. So I guess I don't have any judgment around it other than to educate. Yeah. So that's what I do. I talk about it and where to fit it in your business cycle, in your business timeline, and also, how you feel about it, because legals is like money. People have mindset issues around it and they need to be unpacked and then reframed so that it works for you in your business.
Yeah, I know with, you and I have a lot of similarities in that way, whereas, people will say, I'll take care of it once so once I get bigger or once I grow, once I have more clients, blah, 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 I'll take care of my legals and I'll take care of my financials. But really, it's so important to start from the beginning, to get everything set up properly.
And I think I suspect, in fact, I know it's the same as it is for your clients with their money issues, because when I addressed mine, it's the same. You have to start somewhere. Yeah. I'm not saying that you have to have your whole suite of documents ready before you even see a client, but it has to have a place from the day you start. Yeah. Right? You need to have regard or consideration of it from the day you start. And how you do that is basic business terms and conditions. Yeah. It just needs to be a page or two to start with. And all it is a record of how you are currently doing business. Yeah. It's like when you tell your clients, do a spreadsheet about your expenses. Let's start from that. So what happens, of course, Sylvia, is they just don't even look at their business processes. They don't even look at how they're interacting. So it's a really murky area, and it comes to their attention only when something goes wrong or somebody calls them on it. Lately, I've made it a point of asking for business terms and conditions. Yeah. Because I have money to spend. Mm-hmm. And I love outsourcing. I just think it's the best thing ever, right? But then I realized that I actually wasn't asking people for it. Yeah. And it's interesting the responses I get. It does send some people scrambling. Other people have them ready. And, you know, it's not that I just respect the fact of the people that have them ready. I have no judgment about it. I just read them and say, okay, this is what the business terms and conditions are. If there's something that I want specifically for my interaction with them, for my transaction, I talk to them about it, but we have that to start with. Those people that don't have business terms and conditions, I give them time to get them into me.
Yeah.
Help them draft them, because I think that that's where the education starts. On the one hand, as a business owner, you should have your own. On the other hand, as a business owner, each time you do business with somebody else, you should be asking for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because
Yes.
I don't think it's anything that you actually think about. And oftentimes when you are working with someone, you just either assume that they have it or you sign them like electronically.
Yeah.
And then you don't even read them half the time.
It's just having that conversation, that due diligence for yourself. Oh, okay, I have asked for these and she's provided them. That in itself is a big indication of how developed these people, this person is with their business, or they've actually given thought about it, or they run a business they care about.
Yeah.
Because they've gone to the trouble of articulating how they want to interact with their clients, and because they want the best for them and for themselves. So
cool. Now I want to talk to you about client agreements.
Yes.
But before we jump into that, tell me the difference between a client agreement and terms of business.
Okay. When you have client agreements and terms of business, business terms and conditions can be interchangeable. It just depends on your particular type of work. So if you're a coach, okay, if you are providing a service specifically to a person, so for example, the types of client agreements I've prepared have been for coaches, for EFT practitioners, for naturopaths, people who are in the service industry who are actually got one-on-one clients.
Yeah.
Okay, so these people, your client agreement is specifically with them, with one person.
Yeah.
So your business terms and conditions are the general business terms and conditions that run behind your business. Sometimes it's okay that your client agreement is sufficient, your business terms and conditions are contained in them. Or you could have, your business could be such that you just need, so if you're I have to have a client agreement for some matters that I do in my legal practice, okay, because the clients, there's a certain number of things the client must agree to. But then for another part of my business, I just have general terms and conditions. So for example, if I'm just drafting an agreement, it's a general terms and conditions that tells people how I work in the drafting of this. But if I'm representing someone in a family law matter or court or whatever, it's a whole different story. There's an entirely different type of interactions involved, and information that the client needs to know about the process and their payments. So that's a specific agreement just for them, and it needs to be brought to their attention. So client agreement and business terms and conditions can be interchangeable depending on your business. If you are like a coach providing a one-on-one service, I would say that that's probably a clear indicator that you need a client agreement. But if you are running group programs, they have their own terms and conditions. If you are just running a general service, so if you're selling products, if you have a shop front, there's a general terms and conditions of sale. So it really just depends on what type of business you're running. Yeah. Having said that, though, this is where it becomes very valuable to speak to someone like myself or another practitioner about it, because you don't need all of it.
Yeah.
You just need to decide which combination or which one suits you the best, and is it possible for a number of those services to be included in the one document.
Yeah. And I think it's the same with me as well. I think people think that you have to do everything all at once right this moment, and it becomes so overwhelming so that they do nothing.
Yes. The other thing that I would like to say too is, these documents or these policies or these terms and conditions, these are ways of teaching people how to work with you. That's all they are, okay? And they'll change with time.
Yeah.
But the important thing to remember is that you own that document, you own that relationship. So make it, it's really like you can choose to set something aside in it. You can choose to bend the rules for a client. You can choose to make an exception.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but it just provides you with something to work from,
Yeah.
as opposed to this big gaping hole, which I refer to as a gaping hole, because you can minimize so much tension and so many issues with clients if right from the beginning there was a framework to work from.
Yeah.
Because both of you have something to fall back on. But without that, it just becomes a more difficult conversation, and ease and grace goes out the window then, because it becomes a stressful arrangement. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because at the very least, business terms and conditions are a great start.
Yeah.
And then as your business refines and you develop different services, then you need to look at, if they're not the same, if they're different from each other, then the client needs to know that.
Yeah.
And you need to express it.
Okay, so now the big question,
Mm-hmm.
what about the people who just copy someone else's client agreement? Like say they're a naturopath, or they're a kinesiologist or something like that, and they know someone else who does the same thing, and they just copy their terms or their client agreement. What do you say to that?
Look, I say this, I have this question posed to me quite often. I can just go copy it from somewhere else. That's a decision that you make as an entrepreneur and a business person. And, how it to me, it's a reflection of how you feel about your business, to be honest. Like, if you are actually copying someone else's, it just may be an indicator that you're afraid to actually pay attention to your own business and to then derive your own framework or content for your agreements. Okay, the reality is that you may copy of somebody else, but in the finer details, you are different.
Yeah.
Your personality is different. Your voice is different. Even your target market is different. Even what you expect from your clients is different. Okay, what you charge is different. So I say this: if you're going to copy, right, be very, very good at it. Because it will trip you up.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, please don't do it because it's actually against the law.
Well,
right?
There you go. Is that yeah.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
You are breaching someone else's copyright. It's stealing,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
So it may look the same, yes, right? But do the due diligence in your own business and make sure that what is happening in your business is actually reflected in the document. The third thing I would say to you is that if there is someone else's documents that you like, and that's acceptable. We all love other people's work. I do too. I love. I think to myself, gee, they do a great job at it. Mm-hmm. Get that document tailored for your business. Say to whoever is drafting for you, or to look at that and say, my business actually does this and this and this. Someone like myself will QA that. We will go through your business and see what you actually do. Yes, we know that this is what you are heading for, but we will also need to separate you from them. Yeah. Okay, because we need to address the issue of copyright, but more importantly, your document needs to be authentic. Mm-hmm. It needs to be about you and about your business. So I had another interesting discussion the other day, and I'll talk about it now. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of this talk, we said, we get caught up in the marketing. Mm-hmm. We don't pay attention to legals and finances. Yeah. Well, legals is your content as well. Yeah. Right. So all these blogs and stuff that we all create, I do that too. I sit and think, oh God, I've got to do 2 blogs this week. But actually your business terms and conditions, or your client agreement, or your contracts, okay, is content about your business, because it's speaking about your business, right? It's talking about how you wish to conduct yourself. It's talking about the frame of reference in which you exist. It talks about how you would like your ideal client to behave and to conduct themselves. It talks about what you offer.
Yeah.
It talks about what you don't do, what you won't do, what you will negotiate on, what you won't negotiate on. And believe it or not, anything about your business is content, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Right? So I would say to you that, and I say this now quite a lot because it was a late realization for me, that it's probably just that little bit more important than your blogs and your Facebook posts, because that's the one document that will keep you in control of your business.
Yeah.
Your blogs and all that don't, but this one, drafted carefully and with thought and with legal compliance, will actually do something for your business, like protect it.
Yeah. And talking about protection, people will actually go and buy insurance. So they'll insure themselves for their business, but if there's no contracts in place, you are quite exposed. Is that correct? If something goes wrong?
Yes, that's one thing. The second thing is that business insurers are getting quite diligent now as well. They're tightening up their requirements, especially with the number of independent businesses that are coming up in the space of working from home, and the types of services that are now being marketed online.
Mm-hmm.
So quite often they will ask you to have these in place.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it exposes them.
Yeah.
So they won't. Some insurance companies won't even cover you if you're not able to show that you have got proper business terms and conditions that comply with Australian consumer law up there for consumers and for clients, and that if you haven't taken steps to address indemnity and disclaimer issues in your documentation somewhere. It's like, when you go into a business, there is a requirement that you need to have your business registration visible for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming the same with insurance requirements as well.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that I would flag for people, is that if people don't have their business terms and conditions or their client agreements, you got to ask, do they have business insurance?
Yeah, interesting.
And if they don't have it, then there's a certain amount of risk in dealing with them. I'm not saying it's a big risk. It just depends on the business and the transaction, because I don't like to, send people on this big fear train.
Yeah, we're not scaremongering.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, it's a thought process. Like, you've got to ask yourself, okay, so do they don't have terms and conditions? Do they have business insurance? Not that it, sometimes it would affect whether you work with someone or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way things are going, that people are more aware now, and they will ask for them.
Yeah.
And I have been asking for them myself, and I've been quite interested to see. Sometimes people are really shocked because they simply don't think they need them. Yeah, and that's an education issue, Sylvia. That's no judgment from me. It's an education issue. Now you know, because someone's asked you, so you better go get them.
Yeah, and this is what this whole thing is about.
Absolutely, and I look at it from that point of view all the time.
Yeah.
In fact, to me, I'm always so proud of someone when they give me their terms and conditions, and sometimes there's a struggle, like they really kind of like have this thing, I don't really want to give this to people. I have one, but I never give it to people. And I say to them, show me.
Yeah.
I'll help you fix it.
Yeah.
You should, this is your one of your signatures, like your business card, like, your Facebook banner. This is one of the things that represents your business. So let's do something with it to make you proud of it.
Yeah.
And usually when we unpack it, what the problem is that there's certain processes they don't understand. Mm-hmm. So we fix those up, simplify them. There's certain conversations that they don't know how to have with a client because it's an advocacy thing, like talking about the agreement. And so we talk about that, and we get a dialogue comfortable. But mostly I get them to start loving their agreement a little bit, so that when they know there's a connection between that and how they're doing their business and the outcome with the client.
Yeah, Perfect. Now, I want to move on to website legals.
Right.
I know you and I have spoken about this before, where there is a requirement on your website for certain information.
Yes.
That is a legal requirement, correct?
Yes.
And what are they?
So anyone with a website should have terms of use and a disclaimer and privacy policy. Now, most websites will collect information of some description, okay? It's usually a phone number, an email address. At the very least, it's an email address. Also, we drop cookies. Someone comes onto your website, you know, there is that thing that it's possible to track your navigation, which pages they clicked on and all this stuff. So your privacy policy is mandatory in that respect, because you need to tell people that that's what you're doing.
Yes.
And let them know that if you're not happy with that, then don't use this site. Your website terms of use talks about your content. That, you know, the interaction that they have, or the house rules or the ground rules of actually using your website, what you can and can't do. So for example, your website terms of use will identify you as the business, and it'll identify the other person as the visitor. It'll talk about the kinds of information that is on the website. It will talk about the intellectual property rights in that content that's on the website, who owns it, what they can do, what they can't do, can they copy, can they download. It also will talk about third-party links. You know, on your website, you'll have links to different other businesses for various reasons. So if something goes wrong with those websites, you need to address to the visitor what your liability is in that respect. What, you know, where do you stand just because they happen to click on a third-party link while they were on your website? So it's also very important to have that up there, so that if people have any issues, there's a contact number to find you. But most importantly, which people don't realize, is that your website legals state the jurisdiction in which any issues are to be managed. Okay, if you don't have that, then someone can bring an action against you wherever they are in the world, because you've got to understand websites are global. Someone in Bucharest could be looking at my website. If they take exception to something on it, or if there is a problem, if they get a virus because they happen to go on my website, some problem happened, and my terms and conditions my website legals did not say that any issues are going to be managed in Brisbane, Australia, I might have to go to Bucharest. And you don't want that. So these are the things, and it's a very it's a basic requirement. If you're going to have a website, it should be a no-brainer that you need to have that in place. And it's, again, the same issues apply with relation to client agreements. Don't copy. Everybody's website is different. It's built differently. The purpose of it is different. Your customers are different. And how you want to, the types of information you collect is different. So you need to have all of those quality assured for your business only.
So then tell me what you think about templates that are available online, where you can just basically fill in the blanks and then you get these documents.
You'll find that the good templates will come with a very strong suggestion that you get the session with the legal practitioner with it. Okay. Templates I would say to people, don't use a template solely. Use it in conjunction with a session with a legal practitioner. I think that if you have those two things in place, you're pretty okay. But if you're going to take a template and pretend to be the lawyer to qualify, to quality assure what should and shouldn't have gone in terms of your business specifically, you're setting yourself up for problems. Because the templates will not, so when you use a template and give it to a legal practitioner to review and update, I know it sounds like, oh, well, I'm doing it twice. Why don't I just get a legal practitioner to do it? I agree. I think you're wasting your time. But if you really want to use a template, then find one that has a legal practitioner session attached to it. So you can buy your template and upgrade and purchase a session to have that reviewed, with someone that knows. So it's very important. I think templates are a way of the future. I think it's a business. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? I've got 3 huskies and they're like losing the plot. But yeah, so I would say to you in relation to templates that it's a reality. People will use them. Just be smart about it, buy a template that has a legal session attached to it, and don't take a template so if you go on a website and someone is selling templates, use their legal session. Yeah. Because they're the ones that have designed the template. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's my view on templates. I think it's a reality. I'll be putting some on my website later this year, because I've drafted so many client agreements and website legals. I just haven't gotten to it. Yeah. So busy. But mine will come with a session. Yeah. Because I don't want someone to take my template, use it, make a mess of it, and then it was still my template to begin with. I'd rather make sure that it's all good to go when they're done. Yeah.
So what do you say to people who are at startup stage and they just say, I get it, but I just can't afford to do all of this right now? What's the one, where should they start? What's the most important thing they should have in place? And then how do they build from that?
Look, the most important thing is, if they're starting, at the very least, start off with your business terms and conditions, because you have to think about your business. It's a no-brainer, and it's really like you need to start writing. It's like your financials. You need to keep track. So if they say if you have the mindset that you can't afford it, budget it in really quickly. Yeah. Okay. And if you can't, there's a couple of ways of doing it. You can do your own and get someone like myself to review it. Mm-hmm. Okay. At startup phase, it's not a complex matter, but it's really important for self-advocacy, for business confidence, and to quality assure your business as it grows, to have those in place. Yeah. So it's not one of those things that should cost you thousands of dollars at that point. Then down the track, as your business develops, you'll get a better sense of how you want your client agreements and any other agreements to work. And as business grows, so do the relationships. So we end up with many types of possibilities. You could be collaborating, you could be doing you could become a speaker, so you'd need those types of agreements in place. You could be running conferences, so you need a suite of documents for that. You could be running workshops, you could have created a course, you could be running online programs, even group coaching, however your business develops. Understand this, that each pod in your business, each service in your business, if it is delivered differently, then that difference needs to be communicated to the people participating. Yeah. And when you get a session, when you have these looked at, it's like with the really good bookkeepers and the really good, those women that are really good at this type of thing, they'll educate you to keep, like, by the time, what I'm trying to say is, when I do this with my clients, they don't come back to me for every single amendment. Mm-hmm. I empower them and teach them to adjust these things themselves. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Because you shouldn't have to. Part of the process is to get confidence and be firm in your advocacy skills, to recognize, okay, I'm doing something differently, so I need to reflect it somewhere, and where. You may, sometimes I do review documents because people are uncertain that they're doing a new service. How does this fit in? But generally speaking, I find that if you start paying attention to this from day one, from when you birth your business, the confidence exponentially increases. You become more aware, and it becomes an effortless thing to keep updating your documents and being aware of when you need to change. A bit like your financials, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. Okay, so now if people, after listening to this, say, right, I've got to get it sorted and Shalini's my woman, where can they find you?
I have a Facebook business page, which is very active. I'm very proud of it.
Oh, good.
It's called Legally Shalini, and I'm happy for them to contact me from there. I also have a lovely website. I'm very proud of that too. It's a work in progress, but each time I look at it, I think, yes, it's looking better than the last time I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, Legally Shalini is the name of that website as well.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty easy to find.
Perfect. All the details will be below this video.
It'll come up. There's no complicated. You don't have to jump through hoops to find me.
That's exactly right. And look, I encourage everybody to at least, have a session with Shalini, a mentoring session or a consulting session, and really find out what it is that you need to do, and then put some time and effort into your legals, because it's such an important area.
Hey, look, if you've watched this and you just let me know that you watched it and you want to have a chat, I'm happy to just have a talk to you. No problem. So
that's wonderful.
I'd love to do that. I love making the connections anyway, because I'm insanely curious about other people's businesses.
And she wants to outsource, so
Yes. Yes, I do. I believe in it. It's the only way I can run my business is to outsource.
Totally. Well, thank you so much, Shalini. This has been a real eye-opener. I know I've learned a few things, and I'm sure that the people who are watching this have learned some things as well. So thank you so much for your time today.
You are welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks. Bye.